Hi everyone, it's Kute here. Recently I got back from Thailand. I was traveling to Bali to facilitate Boundless Bliss Bali with amazing people from around the world. And then towards the end of my journey, I had the chance to stop off in Thailand and hang out with my mother for a few days. I flew her in. To me, Thailand is one of the most magical countries in the world. Got to spend 4 amazing days with my mother and just got to pamper her a little bit, which was really, it was a real treat to say the least. And she flew off and I stayed in Thailand another day waiting to catch my plane. And when I was checking out of my hotel, I had the most interesting and strange and enlightening and humbling experience. So here I am checking out of a hotel I love in Bangkok, and I'm packing everything away, and I can't find my most treasured shoes. Now these aren't any kind of shoes, they are Vibram shoes. They're Vibram 5-finger shoes. They're literally barefoot technology that make you literally feel like you're walking on bare feet. They're amazing for your posture. If you heard of them, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard of them, you need to check them out. They're amazing shoes. And here I am packing my bags, trying to get to the Bangkok airport, and I can't find my Vibram shoes anywhere. And you can imagine the clock's ticking away. I'm getting a little upset and frustrated. And I call the front desk and I basically tell the front desk what happened to my shoes. Is maybe something's happened to my shoes. Maybe someone took my shoes and they don't know and I don't know. And I'm looking everywhere. I go through the entire room. I go through all of my suitcase. Nothing. Now I'm starting to make some assumptions and some judgments. I'm not proud to say, but my mind starts going. Have you ever had that experience where something occurs in your life and then the assumptions begin and the mind begins and all the judgments begin? And from that assumption, you create an entire scenario, an entire reality that may or may not be truth. So here I am, and about 3 hotel staff are in my room and they're all looking for the Vibram shoes, and I'm making an assumption someone has stole my treasured Vibram shoes. I'm not into many things, but my Vibram shoes, I got to get them back. So now I'm making this assumption in my mind that someone has stole my treasured Vibram shoes, and it was kind of amusing when I look back. I'm kind of looking at people like, who stole my Vibrams? Someone stole my I know someone here has got my Vibrams and is going to be walking around Thailand with my Vibrams. An hour we're looking, no Vibrams. I finally decide to surrender. It was a lesson in surrender. And I say, okay, universe, I'm going to leave my Vibrams. I have a plane to catch. I jump in the taxi, get to the airport, check in, but I'm still a little frustrated about my Vibrams. The stories that we make up in our mind, right? And I'm a little upset at the hotel because I've made this assumption that someone from the hotel has stolen my Vibrams. And that has now become my reality. Okay? So many of the things that you might think are reality aren't necessarily reality. They're interpretations and perceptions and assumptions that you're making up that are impacting and clouding the reality of the situation that you might be experiencing. So just because you see something a certain way, just because you perceive someone a certain way, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So often we go through life wearing these lenses, wearing these sunglasses, and seeing everything as blue. And we have proof that everything's blue because we see everything as blue. Like, no, that person is really a bad person. Have you ever had that experience where someone has made a judgment or assumption about you and they don't even know you, and they're telling people, oh, that person's not a nice person, or that person is like this, but they don't even know you. So when we see life through certain lenses and certain perceptions and certain filters, it appears to be reality, but it necessarily isn't. Just because you might be seeing things as blue with the lenses that you're wearing doesn't mean it's blue. Just because you're perceiving someone a certain way, as bad, as this, as that, doesn't mean that's reality. The way we perceive something and our reaction to situations really reveal more about ourselves and what's going on within ourselves than the situation itself. So when you perceive something a certain way or make an assumption, it's so important to check yourself, to take a step back and really take a closer look at yourself and the situation and question what you're seeing. So I finally arrived back into LA and I'm unpacking my bags and I'm still frustrated about the people that stole my Vibrams. And I'm thinking I'm gonna write to the hotel and I'm gonna tell them about my experience, and someone stole my Vibrams from the hotel and I had them when I arrived at the hotel, and now when I left the hotel I don't have them, so it must mean someone stole them from the hotel. I calmed myself down and I finally chilled out for a moment. A few days went by and I'm finally unpacking all of my bags, and sure enough, underneath the bottom of everything in my suitcase, which I had checked in Thailand, by the way, I triple checked everything, there were my Vibrams. There were my trusted Vibrams. I'm like, you cannot believe the joy on my face when I found my treasured Vibrams. I mean, these Vibrams, look at them. They're like amazing. Barefoot technology. They make you feel like you don't have any shoes on. I found my Vibrams and I couldn't believe it. And in that moment was a very humbling moment, because I got to really see in such a simple way through my Vibram shoes the nature of the mind and how I'd made up all these assumptions about the hotel, the assumptions about people, the assumptions about a situation. And I created a whole scenario and a whole reality that was not based on any reality at all, other than the perception and the assumptions I made up. And as a result, got to experience the reality and the emotion based on that false reality that wasn't even real. How often do we do that? How often do you do that with people in your life? How often do you do that in relationships, making assumptions about what the other person's experiencing about you in a relationship, how they feel about you, how they don't feel about you? Because they didn't do that, it must mean this. And the hell we put ourselves through in the name of what we think is reality. So here's what I want to leave you with. Number one, check your assumptions. And don't make assumptions. Reality isn't necessarily what you perceive it to be. But if you perceive reality to be what you think it is, in that moment, it will become your reality in that moment. That's the first thing. Second thing, I encourage you to not judge. I found myself judging everything and everyone in the situation, and it wasn't based on any truth, and it wasn't real, and it wasn't fair on me, it wasn't fair on them, and didn't elevate my experience. Number three, I think it's so important that when you're faced with a situation, that you don't pretend to think you know what the situation is, or what you think the situation is. It's so important that you remain open. Maybe take a step back rather than reacting, because so often when something happens and we have a perception, we see something a certain way, we react. And if we're not seeing things clearly, that reaction might be a little off. And so often our perceptions and how we see reality is based on our conditioning, based on our programming, which also may not be very clear. So I say it's really important to take a step back, to remain open, take a step back, rather than reacting. Take a step back and observe and feel the situation, so that if you need to respond, or if a response is necessary, you can actually choose your response much more effectively and clearly. Because you never know what reality is. And you may have one reality that from your perspective might be true. But another person, or your husband, your wife, your friend, another person may have a whole different reality based on the same experience, based on their filters, that is equally true to them. So on one level, you're both right. Because from your reality and from your perspective, you're both right. Ultimately, the less assumptions you make about things, about situations, and about people, the freer you will be. So here's my question. How much freedom do you want to experience in your life? How much freedom do you want to experience in your life? Don't make assumptions and be willing to not know. Be willing to not know. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go enjoy my Vibrams. See you guys later. Love now.